Hi again, Janice Vaughn, letting your light shine. All right, so the last episode I told you about having to call the police for my missing debit card that the narcissist claimed that he had never seen before. Oh gosh, the stories I'm going to tell you are either going to make me laugh or make me cry, honestly, because now that I'm telling it, it sounds so incredibly ridiculous. But anyway, so somebody took my debit card out of my purse. The only other person in the room was the narcissist. But, of course, he didn't do it because why? They do nothing wrong. They don't do anything like that. Yeah, I call BS. Total bullshit. Anyway, so my friend says, if you don't call the police, Janice, I'm going to call the police because this is insane. And so we call the police, right? And yes, her and I were drinking outside, had a few glasses of wine. We're just being our silly selves or whatever. We weren't loaded. We weren't drunk, none of that stuff. And so the police take a report. And so I had to, report my card stolen, which I knew where it went. But anyway, the point is, why are you going into somebody's purse, taking their debit card, and then saying you've never seen the debit card? You know damn good and well he did that because of one reason. He did that because he was pissed off that I didn't jump at his whim when he was hungry and wanted to order dinner. And I'm thinking, okay, if you're hungry, why don't you get your happy ass in your car and go get yourself some food? Or why don't you whip out some food that we already have in the house to cook up? I mean, it would have been kind of nice, maybe grab something to throw on the grill. I mean, knowing that my best friend was in town that I hadn't seen for months and months. So, but no, it was all about him, as it always is about, the narcissist. So anyway, so the police took a report, had to report my damn card stolen, whatever. So again, this is how many incidents now that I still did not get it, because the next day, he had said to me, he goes, I'm really sorry about your debit card, but I really don't know what happened to it. But he was kind of apologizing in a roundabout way, but not admitting that he did it. And I'm thinking to myself, whatever, I got another one on the way. So that made me very cautious. So I was very careful from that moment on. So I think it was then that I went from having women have wallets and everything to having this little bitty wallet this big. And I began, the wallet had like my ID, it had my couple credit cards, my debit cards, just very little information in it, but it was so small and so skinny that I was able to hide my wallet. And that's when I began to do that. And this is 3 weeks into a relationship. So tell me why I didn't pay attention to that red flag. Why am I hiding my wallet from somebody in my own home? No. This is so ridiculous to hear me say this, but it was just incredible. So he steal money. All right. He would steal my debit card, whatever. Yes, there were a couple times that there were charges on my card that I didn't know about. So of course I had to report them stolen. My poor bank got used to me calling me going, I have to report another fraud charge. And then I felt ridiculous because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're not going to believe me because they're going to think I am just making up that these charges are fraud. They legitimately were total fraud. So that was one aspect of it. So let me jump ahead to, well, not really jump ahead, but during this time, I was working on his court case for him. All right. Because remember in the first episode, I told you that he had gotten screwed from his wife or his ex-wife, and his kids wanted nothing to do with him. His children were teenagers. I think at the time they were like, I don't know, like 16 and 17 or whatever they were. And so I was working feverishly at my computer. I was going through his case files, putting other clients off. All right. Because I'm like, well, I'm kind of in a relationship with this guy at this point. Why? Oh gosh, I don't even know. But, so I, prepared several pleadings to try and modify some stuff, try to lower child support, do all these things because, his ex-wife was so horrible, right? And I know better. I'm not a person that listens to one side of the story. There's two sides of the story, and then there's the truth. All right. So I never judge based on one side. But some of the things that I did see kind of looked a little wonky. So I thought, well, let's kind of kind of fix some of these things and at least try and get your child support lowered, because the child support was based on a different income than he had at the time. So there was reason to change things for him. And I thought, well, all right, maybe she is withholding the kids. Let's try enforcing that and see if that works. Well, part of what I needed to read was what's called a parenting conference report. All right. And so I read that, and it was extremely, extremely alarming to me at the moment that I read it. And in that, it details out mom's story, dad's story, and then the children are interviewed. And mind you, they were older. I think, like I said, 16, 17 at the time. So I read things in there that said the children were fearful of father. They witnessed him getting verbally abusive to mom. He threw mom into the countertop. He threw an ice cream container across the room. He was quick to anger, and they didn't want to have anything to do with their father. And so right then and there should have been my first sign to say, run like hell. Okay. But again, I'm like, maybe mom manipulated the kids, I mean, it happens. So I'm always looking for that silver lining. And so I had said to him, I go, this is very concerning to me. I go, what is this about you throwing her into the counter? Oh, that's BS. She fell and that didn't happen. And what about the ice cream container that you threw across the floor, which was in a police report? He goes, it doesn't matter. It was empty. And I thought to myself, it does matter. You threw something. Regardless of the weight of it, you threw something. That's out of anger and rage. And you clearly have no way of being able to control your rage. So I was like, okay, more red flags. But what did I do? I continued to push forward, trying to find the silver lining, like I said, and I drafted these pleadings for him, and we filed them with the court. Well, the older child, who was an adult, there was 3 children, and the older child, who was an adult, immediately called dad and just went off and said, I can't believe you're doing this to my mother. You are a piece of crap. You are worthless, whatever. And I heard him screaming at his son on the phone. And his oldest son, I think at the time, was about 22, 23. And I thought that was weird. I thought, now, why are you screaming at your adult child? Like, shouldn't you, just talk about things? But the narcissist is unable to reason with anybody. And I just thought, again, there's another red flag. I mean, as I'm telling you these videos, I probably am going to count 3,000 red flags. Guarantee I will never, ever let these red flags go by me again in future relationships. Ever, ever, ever. I've learned, and I needed to go through this to learn. So that's why I wanted to share all this with you guys, so that you guys would see some of the manipulation tactics that happen. So that was really concerning to me, that this report was so damaging to the narcissist. At the end of the parenting conference report, it did state, it said, father must undergo a psychological evaluation. If father does not undergo a psychological evaluation, then father cannot have any modifications made. And I thought, okay. Now, I've seen those ordered, and I have disagreed with some of the rulings on those, or some of the, not the rulings, but the recommendations. But on this particular one, it kind of just sat in the back of my head a little bit, and I thought, somebody ordered this man to have a psych eval. Why? Somebody is seeing something that I'm not seeing. He never did it. And I think that's why nothing that we filed ever got granted at all. So that's a whole nother story. But he was mentally ill at the time. And again, I was trying to find, the silver lining of it, thinking, well, he just had a really rough time. He was depressed. He got divorced. And, when you go through, a divorce, you go through depression, and, it's just a combination of stuff. So that was just an eye opener for me, but I ignored it again. All right. I continue to freaking ignore it. Why? I don't know. Anyway, probably to tell my story so that everybody else can can see the stuff that I dealt with. So that was really stressful for me. But after I was doing his documents, and he was getting some hope back, because he was like, oh my gosh, things are going to turn in my favor, and I'm so grateful for you, and you did such a great job. It was the constant love bombing. It was just, oh my gosh. And I'm like, wow, he's really appreciative of my hard work, and he understands that I've done all this stuff, and wow, it's great to have a client / boyfriend who really, really does appreciate my hard work. Because I put so much time and effort into this. I mean, I would stay up late, I would get up early to put time into this. And the whole time I was being told how crazy his ex was. And that's something that I want you guys to understand. When somebody says that their ex is crazy, their ex is, psychologically insane, and they're bipolar, and they're a narcissist, look at the person who's telling you that information, because it's normally the person who's dishing it out that has the problem. Yes, there are people that really do have exes that are crazy. All right, there's unfortunately a lot of them out there. But when they constantly blame everybody else for everything, that's a huge red flag. Probably one of the biggest red flags. Somebody who says, you know what? My ex and I, we divorced, and, we divorced because we just, separated and went our different ways, had different goals in our lives. And we really just, kind of lost who we were, but she's still a good person, or, he's still a good person. That's a legitimate reason to have to split up from somebody. But a narcissist will always, always, always place blame on the other party and never take ownership. In fact, when he was saying all this stuff about his ex, I started really thinking about it as he was talking. And I thought, gosh, not one time in these conversations have you owned up to a damn thing. Like, if I do something wrong, you better believe that I'm going to say, hey, I screwed up, man. I'm sorry. That was so not intentional. How can I make it right with you? And I would learn from that and make sure I would never do that again. All right. But with a narcissist, they don't take ownership of anything. I mean, anything at all. So watch out for that. That's probably one of the key flags is to see, what are they saying about the other people in their lives? What are they saying about, their parents and their family members? And, and that's another thing too. I would hear nothing about anything good about childhood for him. And, maybe he didn't have a good childhood. I don't know. I wasn't there. But his mom was just that was terrible because she didn't protect him from sexual abuse and all this stuff. And then I started wondering, I'm like, were you sexually abused? I mean, I'm not trying to discard that, because it very well could have been true, but is that a made up story? I mean, I've spoken to his mom. She doesn't believe it happened. Maybe it did. I wasn't there, so I won't judge whether it did or not. All right. But if it did happen, why are you not getting help for that? And why are you not in therapy for that? And why are you not addressing those issues? Because that could leave long-term effects on you. And so it was all this poor, pitiful me. This is why I'm getting screwed in life, because everybody else has hurt me. Everybody else has damaged me. But again, what are you doing to fix that and get over that? Because the reality is, we can get better with the appropriate help. But it was not wanting the help. It's easier to blame everybody that has hurt me instead of looking within to see how I can better myself. So that's a huge red flag too. So watch out for that, because I think that's super crucial. We all have past that somebody has hurt us in one way or another. I mean, this is life. People are going to hurt us. But it's what we do with that hurt that we fix for our future, or try to address for our future and get better. And a lot of times therapy or self-healing or trauma therapy or anything to do with getting better is so much easier than just putting blame on other people. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own lives, and we're adults. And there comes a point where you just can't blame your parents for your life. When you're an adult, you get to make your own choices. You get to choose if you want a good life, you want a bad life, you want to sit back and reflect on what happened 40 years ago or 30 years ago or 5 years ago. Or you can say, you know what? I am not going to let this crap define me 1 minute longer. I am going to be a better person because of what happened to me. All right. And, you know, in my upbringing, I had a good childhood. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I mean, there was some contention and stuff like that and some things that happened, but I was in a relationship with my mom who was pretty judgmental of people. And when I was a kid, when I was really young, I used to look at her judging people, and it never sat with me very well. Like, I would sit there and go, why are you judging somebody just because they have long hair or a tattoo? Don't judge people. It just never sat right in my gut. So I always told myself that I'm never going to judge a person, because I'm going to judge them from who they are on the inside, not what they look like on the outside. So I took what I not learned from childhood, but what I witnessed from childhood, and I turned it around. And I'm very grateful for my mom, and I love her to death, because she taught me how not to be, all right, in a judgmental way. And so I am grateful for that. So that's kind of how I turned it around. But narcissists will never do that. They will never take ownership, and they will just blame. And that's going to be their story until the day they die. All right. All right. So there's that episode. So I'm going to take a little break, and I will be back and pick up on this. This is going to be interesting. Thanks, guys.